Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have a review that should be very interesting. This will be the first review of this style that you'll have seen on the channel, but I've heard this is something that seems to be a little bit of a craze over in America just now. So for this one we are going to go over to Denmark once again. We're going to revisit Mikkeller, who are one of the famous Danish gypsy breweries, and we're having a taste of my first ever Brut ale for you on the channel. So this one is called the Swedish Wash, described simply as a Brut ale. It's brewed with Riesling juice from Weingut Mayra, which is from Germany, and yeah, it comes in at 11.5%. I'm really not very sure what to expect from this one, but as I say, my first time reviewing a beer of this style for you on the channel, and I've never tried anything like this, so I really have no idea what to expect from this one, so I hope that makes for a very interesting review. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with this one. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Mikkeller before. No doubt there will be some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Mikkeller then. So as I've mentioned to you before, Mikkeller are the famous Danish gypsy brewery that was founded by Christian Keller and Mikkel Bjergso, although it's now run exclusively by Bjergso, who actually used to be a physics and maths teacher. But again, these guys are very influenced by the American craft beer movement, and they basically started out as the homebrewing experimentation of Christian and Mikkel and grew from there. There was a big homebrewing group in Copenhagen that's actually given birth to many of the kind of quite well known Copenhagen craft breweries these days. But for a long time they didn't have their own brewery, but rather brewed a variety of host breweries in America, in Norway, Scotland and Belgium. Most of their beer is actually brewed at the De Proefbrouwerij Christe Hefte near Ghent in Belgium, and their home base for a long time as well was the Mikkeller bar in Copenhagen. But they also have a collaboration bar with To Øl as well, whose founders are former students of Mikkel's. They used to brew in the school kitchens together. I think it was Tore Gainter, and I forget the other guy's name that's actually involved there, but To Øl are another very good brewery as well. But in April of 2016 they took over AleSmith's former brewery in San Diego after they moved to a larger space, and in 2017 they also announced that they would establish a second brewery in Citi Field, which is home of the New York Mets on the east coast of America in New York City. But they also now have a location in Copenhagen which is called Baghaven, and this is where they're doing a lot of their experimentations with sour beers as well. There is of course the War Pigs pub that I really recommend you check out. That's a collaboration brewery and bar with Three Floyds, and some of the beers they do there are awesome, and the food, it's basically pork and beer, for me. What is not to like there? But they've got various bars around the world now. They've got ones in Barcelona, there's one in Berlin, there's Warsaw, Bucharest, Stockholm. I've been to the Stockholm one. There's one in Reykjavik, Tórshavn in the Faroe Islands, there's one in Tokyo and Seoul, Taipei in Taiwan, and Singapore of course as well. But they've got various locations in Copenhagen. There's also Ramen Tobiru, which is a lovely ramen and beer restaurant. I really recommend that you check out that one. And they've got locations in San Diego as well, and also quite a few, 2 or 3 locations actually in Bangkok in Thailand too. So a company that is always expanding and opening up new bars. So I really need to go and visit Mikkeller Tokyo this time. That's only reopened within the last year. Usually it was a pop-up bar, but they seem to have found themselves a permanent location now, which I think should be very cool. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Mikkeller just now. They've brewed well over 1,000 different types of beers, probably near 1,500 different beers they've brewed these days, but they always do some very interesting stuff, and I'm sure this one will be no exception to that. But if you haven't already and you're interested in Danish craft beer, there's not many better places to start than Mikkeller actually. But that said, the quality of Danish craft beer is very good. I would argue that Copenhagen Copenhagen is one of the best beer cities in the world these days. You know, they've got some really, really nice craft beer there that's, you know, amongst the best in the world. So if you get the chance to go and visit there, I highly recommend that you do, particularly if you have the chance to go to the Mikkeller beer celebration in Copenhagen. So yeah, let's leave it at that for just now. If you want to learn a little bit more about Mikkeller, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and that will keep you up to date with all the latest goings on there. But yeah, let's get rid of the brewery notes now, and we'll get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So yeah, nice bit of artwork on this one. As you can see, this one was released through the Small Partiers in Sustainable. I believe it was the 7th of December 2018. So I've had this one sat in the fridge for a week or two actually before I'm filming it for you. But yeah, I'm not really sure whether this one is going to be a little bit more like a champagne or something. As I say, this is the very first Brut ale that I've ever come across. But from what Jesse Holden, who follows the channel Hops the Drinker, he's called on YouTube, he was telling me that, you know, Brut IPAs and things like that are really kind of taking off in America, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the next things that the European breweries do, because quite often these styles do make it across the water. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with this one. On the back here, some interesting ingredients. It says cassonade sugar, a little bit of lactobacillus, you know, so this one will be basically a sour beer, I think, with a kind of quite vinous quality. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. As I say, 11.5%. I suspect this beer will be a little bit of a monster, so we'll see how we get on with this one. So yeah, let's get it out. One of these nice little twisty opens on it, and yeah, as I say, I've not, until quite recently, I've seen a couple of breweries now doing these Brut IPAs, but I've never actually I've never come across all that many of them. So this one, I don't know if it... Oh, no, it's coming. Very slowly. There we go. I thought I was going to have to use the corkscrew there. But yeah, now we've got it open. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening. So we'll get it out and into the glass. And as soon as I open this, see, to be quite frank with you, it just smells like a champagne. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with this one. Really no idea what to expect from this. And to be honest, champagne is okay, like I'll drink it if it's a celebration and stuff, but it's never been something that I've been overly fond of. You know, I've always preferred my craft beers and my sakes and whiskies and stuff like that, but you know, you have to go into things with an open mind. We'll see how we get on. You know, in terms of appearance, this beer could just be a straight up lager or something like that. From what I remember, champagne is usually a little bit more kind of straw colour or more matty colour than this, but yeah, this could pass for like a Pilsner beer in terms of appearance. I think it's fair to say that's a pale kind of golden straw colour. There's a solid finger of a frothy white head in this one. It's a little bit bumpy. Some of the bubbles in this head are quite a bit bigger. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see it is pretty much transparent. Very, very clear beer. There wasn't really sediment in this one when I was looking at it either. But yeah, in terms of a champagne or a Brut ale, I'm guessing that most of them will be quite similar to this one in appearance. But I think this is a little bit more of a kind of darker yellow than most of the champagnes that I've come across before. I think it's a little bit of a slightly richer yellow, if that's right to say. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. Oh yeah, well, that's interesting. I should say as well that this one was produced at the De Proefbrouwerij in Lochristenhoofd near Ghent in Belgium. So, because you know, the first thing that you smell this, to me the yeast smells quite Belgian-y, to be honest. It does smell a little bit like an almost Belgian blonde yeast or something like that. So yeah, nice kind of big bready malts, and there's a little bit of that doughy, bready, yeasty kind of thing that you would expect from the Belgian ales, particularly the Tripel or the Belgian blonde. More the blonde, to be honest with you. Not quite as strong in alcohol. I mean, well, this beer is stronger than most Tripels, I should say, but the aromas that come out of this one are a little bit more along the lines of a Belgian blonde, I would say. But yeah, little touch of banana or something in there, but you can really smell those nice kind of green or white grapey aromas, however you want to describe it. Actually, it's a really interesting aroma. It's almost like half It's kind of like half champagne, half golden ale, if that makes sense. It's somewhere really along that line, because you really can get those lovely kind of green grapey notes, but at the same time there's a little bit of grassy hop. There's an element of a floral aromaticity to it as well. Maybe a teeny little bit of a light kind of earthiness in there, but you know, overall very, very nice blend of aromas in here. It's a really interesting combination of things. Really not sure what to expect of this one. It doesn't have too much in the way of a hoppy character, as I was saying. It's mainly just a straight up kind of grassy floral sort of thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's a simple, you know, Belgian kind of almost bittering hop, or if it's a bit of a German noble hop or something they would have used in this. I can't remember if it did actually say that they'd used hops, but I would guess that since it's a beer, you know, it does say on the back, yeah, they've used Humle in this, so yeah, definitely used a little bit of hop, but I would guess based on the aroma they've probably used a little bit of a German noble hop or something. A push, it could be like Nelson Sauvin. It's not Enigma. Enigma from Australia has those lovely kind of raspberry red fruity notes in it, as well as the grapes, but I really doubt that they've used Enigma in here. If it was going to be any of them, it would be a little bit like Nelson Sauvin. But yeah, the aroma on this one mainly kind of bready, a little bit of a Belgian yeast sort of note to this one. The grape juice, the sort of green grape juice, is kind of coming out in this one. It does smell a little bit like those German white wines, the Rieslings, the dry wines, but you've also got a little bit of an almost noble hoppy quality on top of this one as well, which would suit it if it's a German grape they've used in this one, which I know it is. You know, it would actually suit that quite nicely. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. But we're going to have a taste of this now, and as I say, very, very curious. My first ever Brut Ale review for you here on the channel. So yeah, this one is the Swedish Wash from Mikkeller in Copenhagen over in Denmark, one of the famous Danish gypsy breweries, and this beer was one of the small party releases through Systembolaget here in Sweden on the 7th of December 2018. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Yeah. See, that's interesting. It starts off a little bit like more like a champagne, but then when you get into the aftertaste, you're like ale, beer, straight away. I will say this is pretty nice actually. I can see why people might like this. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that strikes me about this is it's almost a little bit like a trip ale, but if you take away the kind of sweetness that the trip ale has, that sort of caramelly element to the malt base, it's something kind of akin to that actually. And like I say, for me, this whole thing starts off as a champagne, and then when the mouth gradually dries out a little bit, and that's when you get the kind of that's when you get a little bit of that Belgian yeast. It really starts to become more bready and a little bit biscuity and things like that. It's a really kind of interesting idea, this beer. As I say, I don't think I've ever come across anything that is quite like this. I've had beers that have had you know, grape juice and stuff added to them, and it's been quite interesting, but I don't think I've ever had a beer that's been fully brewed with a champagne yeast before. You know, this is something definitely a little bit different. So yeah, have a go at this for yourself and just see what you think. But yeah, I know, as I say, there's been quite a few Brut IPAs and things like that recently, and you know, particularly over in America, actually, there's been a few Brut IPAs and stuff like that, and it's an interesting trend. But you know, I can see why people would like that. This one to me is a little bit more of a kind of straight up ale. This one, you know, it's not a Brut IPA or anything like that. It is more along the lines of just a kind of straight up Brut ale, I would think. But yeah, I actually quite like this. It really, you know, it was always the case when I first tried sour beers, you know, I was like, what the hell is that? But then after a while, you really do start to kind of like these, and I would say my palate, it's almost like my palate is a little bit more open-minded to things now when you try different things. And if you're drinking lots of different beers and tasting lots of different things, then it really does. It's amazing how your palate can develop and just think, oh no, right, I actually get what's going on here now, and start to enjoy it. So yeah, it's a really interesting kind of combination of flavours then. So let's try and make a kind of concerted effort to describe fully what's going on here, because I've just kind of said, oh, it really reminds me of this so far. But yeah, in the middle of your palate then, you can feel that nice sort of bready malt base just kind of blanket the middle of your tongue. As I said, this beer, the beer aspects of it rather than the champagne side of things, it comes out more as the further into the aftertaste you go. But you've got a nice bready note in there. The yeasty quality in this one. You can feel that the yeast is contributing to this whole bready, doughy, yeasty kind of thing. I think there might be a little bit of a wheaty kind of character in this one as well. And when the middle of your palate really starts to get a hold of these flavours, you start to get a little bit of a biscuity note out of this one. It reminds me a little bit of McVitie's Digestives, that sort of almost corn syrupy kind of thing. It has a little bit of that type of biscuity sweetness in it too, which works out really nicely. But yeah, I like what is going on in this one. This is definitely a kind of interesting combination of flavours. I would say that about this beer. But yeah, the way the malt base comes out in the aftertaste is very, very nice. And I would stick with that hypothesis actually. I mean, this beer for me, obviously it's quite different at the same time, but in terms of the sort of vibe that the beer gives you, it's not too far away from a trip ale. It's just obviously not quite as... it doesn't feel as heavy as a trip ale to me. This beer to me, it's sort of just like a... immediately when I'm tasting this beer, the thing that I really think is either it's almost like a very strong Belgian blonde. It's like a kind of imperial Belgian blonde beer. That's a good way, I think, to describe this one. I don't know if, obviously, there's surely be different variants of this kind of Brut ale style, but my first impression of this beer style is that it's quite akin to a very kind of strong Belgian blonde ale with a little bit of a... it's got a little touch of a kind of sour beer quality to it as well. The Brettanomyces in this one, you can feel that contributing to the flavour as well, but as I say, the way the malt base goes together in this one, very much like a Belgian, almost like an imperial Belgian blonde, but just with a little touch of a sour beer quality to it. But the beer in some ways also has a little bit of a trip ale vibe to it. But yeah, this one I think is quite obviously been brewed with a sort of Belgian, it has, I wonder if they've used a combination of yeast in here. Maybe they've used a bit of a champagne yeast, but they've also used a little bit of a kind of Belgian yeast. But at the same time, you know, the French yeasts, the Champagne region in France, I wouldn't think that when you think about geographic proximity and stuff, I wouldn't think that the yeast strains they use are all that different. And I think, you know, yeast, the main thing about the Belgian beers is the yeasts. It's an interesting thing, you know, a lot of people I think forget how much the yeast can actually contribute to a beer, but basically what I'm trying to say is this is really interesting, but it's a very nice beer at the same time as well. So just ponder over this a little bit if you're trying it. It's really quite interesting just to think about. But yeah, I like how everything goes together. I mean, the hoppy side of things, in the back corner spout you can feel a little touch of earthiness there as you come further forward. Smooths out a little bit. There's maybe a little tiny bit of maybe a tiny little bit of a herbal quality. Front corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity there. Then round the very front curve of the tongue, you've got a little bit of that lighter kind of grassiness, and those green grapey flavours are just kind of mixing in on the top of that. As I always say, when you actually add fruit or fruit juice to the beer, it almost suppresses a little bit of that IBU quality that you get around the edge of the tongue, and you can feel it doing that in this beer. Behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you get that little oily bubble where some of those juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And for me, again, this is quite a strong sort of noble hoppy quality that's in there. I would guess they've probably used some Belgian hops in there too, which can have a little bit of that sort of grassy citrusy quality, and again that complements the addition of the grape juice that they've got in this one. But it does certainly have that nice, almost dry German white wine quality to it. The Riesling, it definitely has a little bit of that Riesling quality there. I'm no wine connoisseur by any stretch of the imagination, but you know, when it comes to German wines, I've always found the white ones to be quite dry compared to other countries. But as I say, this is a really interesting beer, and I like what they're going for here. I'd be very curious to know what hops it is they've used exactly, but I think in terms of this style, it's definitely one that I could get used to, and I really like what they've done with this. So I'll give a big thumbs up to Mikkeller for this one. It's an interesting beer, and you know, when you've done 1,500 beer reviews, you do want things that are going to test you a little bit, and this one certainly has. I mean, it's maybe a bit of a shame because I'm guessing I think I paid like 180 crowns for this bottle, and I thought, you know, it's something that I thought this beer would be. I just thought it'd be quite special if it's one of these random Mikkeller ones. I just thought, you know, it's Christmas time, have a treat with it, and it certainly hasn't disappointed. To try one of these kind of random styles like this, I think, is very, very cool, and it really is a nice beer. I'm going to go and share this with my friends, of course, after finishing this video. But yeah, it's definitely made me very curious to explore the Brut Ale and the kind of Brut IPA style a little bit more. So we'll see how we get on with these reviews over the coming months. And it's maybe a bit of a shame that I've drank this one as my first one, because maybe I won't quite appreciate it in the same way, you know, as I would have this point next year. But yeah, good beer is meant to be drunk, and it's certainly a nice beer. With this one though, you can feel that lovely white green grapey quality. The whole beer just seems to be infused with that, and that'll be this whole kind of champagne yeast, but also some of that kind of green white grapey quality there. It's a very interesting combination of flavours, this one. This one probably isn't my best review in terms of flavour descriptions and stuff, but I'll say I do like this one, and it's one that I'd probably drink quite slowly. I've not drunk that much of this beer with it because I've just been thinking about it too much, probably. But yeah, I like what they're going for in this one. It's definitely a beer that will make you ponder a little bit. But I think if I was going to sum this beer up, sort of Belgian it's like a Belgian yeast in this one. The champagne qualities are coming out quite nicely. It's almost like a very strong Belgian blonde with an element of trip ale to it, but it's got the, you know, the champagne-y green grapey notes. It's probably these three kind of things combined together, but to me it works out very nicely, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. I maybe wouldn't buy a bottle that's quite as big as this, so I think it's 750. This is one that you definitely want to share with some friends. But yeah, let's leave it at that for the flavour just now. In terms of mouthfeel, light to mid-body beer, this one. It's quite difficult to place this actually. Carbonation is very smooth. The mouthfeel overall for me is quite oily. The malt base is quite Belgian. It's got a bit of that thicker kind of malty quality to it, but at the same time there's an element of sweetness in there. Nice little bit of bitterness from the hops, but again, there's not too much. You know, I think you're lucky if you're getting 30 IBUs out of this beer. And you've got a nice little bit of that slightly sourish. It's not tart, this beer, but you can feel the effect of the lactobacillus and Brettanomyces in this one. It's got an interesting combination of things, and the beer does dry out the further into the aftertaste you go, and you've got a nice little bit of juicy fruitiness in there as well. The fruitiness mainly, of course, is that sort of grassy citrusy note, but also the nice kind of white green grapey juices as well. And you know, it really is just a very well done beer. So as I said earlier, a big thumbs up to Mikkeller for this one. The Swedish wash, I'm not sure what the inspiration behind the name was, but yeah, a really interesting beer, and it's cool to review my first Brut Ale for you here on the channel, and I will make sure that I get a little bit more into this style over the next little while, because I hear that it's one that is growing quite substantially. And the Enigma hop, of course, is becoming more popular, and it has that sort of vinous quality. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one, because I think this video will be getting a little bit long. So this was the Swedish wash from Mikkeller, my first ever Brut Ale review for you here on the channel, and it's definitely a beer that's made me think a little bit, and I promise you I will return to this style at some point over the next little while. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Mikkeller, of course, and do give me some Brut Ale and Brut IPA recommendations and stuff like that. As I say, it's a style I am very, very curious about on the basis of this first beer. But yeah, until the next time, slange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. If you get the chance to try this one, I highly recommend that you do. The Swedish wash from Mikkeller in Copenhagen in Denmark. Until the next time, slange just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Skål.